Welcome to Let's Chat with Julie Lewin and the Spirit Talk series, where we delve into the realms of intuition, energy, and spiritual awakening, uncovering the wisdom that resides within each of us and the universe at large. I'm your host, Julie Lewin. Thank you for joining us. And welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat with Julie Lewin. And my special guest today is Myra Medhurst. And thank you, Miroslav, for introducing us. Miroslav is on one of our episodes as well. And we've already had a pre-chat, which is what I do. And we just would have talked all day. So I can't wait for today's episode. But let me first introduce you to Myra. So Myra is a priestess, a New Earth leader, and Ascension and Enterprise mentor who specializes in the evolution of human consciousness. I knew we were going to be good friends. With 17 years of experience in the personal and spiritual development industries, she has completed over 4,300 Soul's Highest Mission readings globally and shared her teachings with communities of 2.3 million people. Wow. Her clients range from heads of Fortune 500 companies, Hay House published authors, industry trailblazers, creatives and visionaries, and she's here to ignite the multidimensional and quantum human potential, awaken the Atlantean and Lemurian realities, and this is what I really want to talk about, for those ready to take an accelerated journey of 5D leadership to co-create a new golden age. So Myra grew up in the naturally rich and remote mining town of Weipa, far north Queensland, Australia, going to school barefoot and climbing coconut trees. She's now a mother and her son climbs those coconut trees too. And in saying that, I grew up in Western Queensland in a mining town as well, known as Mount Isa. So it's not that far. And I was saying to Myra, I didn't wear shoes until I went to high school. So I totally relate to that, barefoot, roaming the hills and growing up like a wild child. And I think that it was, I had a fabulous childhood, and it sounds like you did too. And so tell us a little bit about your journey, and then we can get into some juicy stuff.
That's a big question, Julie.
Whatever comes to your mind.
Yeah, thank you for that really beautiful introduction. And as you were reading that, I was like, oh, that chick sounds amazing. I'd like to hang out with her.
Exactly.
But look, I grew up in a very traditional, normal, modern Australian upbringing.
Yeah.
My parents are not esoteric in the way that we would perhaps think. I certainly didn't have a foot up in this world.
Yeah.
But there were significant experiences I went through and a sensitivity to the world, which I thought everyone had.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel different. I didn't feel like an outsider probably until my early 20s. Or my teenage years. But I think the biggest catalyst was certainly wanting to heal a past childhood trauma. And it was the healing journey that led me into, thank God, the creative arts.
Yeah.
And the creative arts then became such a strong catalyst for more healing, and I wanted to deeply understand myself. And in that, it's I didn't go seeking for Atlantis and Lemuria. It came to me.
Yeah.
And it came to me in very strange circumstances. I'm thinking, okay, what are the big kind of turning points in my journey? And one was I was working a corporate job in Melbourne City as an executive assistant for the state government of Victoria.
Yeah.
I wasn't a healer, yet. And I was deeply depressed, deeply dissatisfied. But I did have this burning sensation inside me for a very long time that there was so much more to my life. There was so much more to the reality.
Yeah.
And on my lunch break, I'd walk 2 blocks down Burke Street, and there was the Theosophical Book Society.
I've been there.
You've been to that store? Yeah. So I would take refuge in that store on my lunch break, and I would just simply walk the aisles.
Yeah.
They sold all different texts, incense, oracle decks, and I didn't even consider myself to be one of those people that would buy oracle decks even from the store. Like, this is how far I felt away from this world. But intuitively, I just knew that I would find peace and stillness from the hustle of the city, and I would be in this store, and I'd been visiting it for some time, and on one of the occasions, a book, as I was walking the aisle, a book flew, not fell, it flew off the shelf, landed cover up as to where my exact next footstep would be.
Wow.
And the book was facing, I mean, it was so confusing. I even looked into the bookshelf to see if it was a one that went all the way through, because I thought, oh, maybe there's another staff member on the other side and they were stacking books on the other side of the shelf. But this bookshelf had a solid backing on it. And I was like, that book flew. And it was facing up, and it said Discover Atlantis by Diana Cooper.
Diana Cooper.
Yes, who's actually another Australian.
I have a story about her as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, keep going.
Well, she spent a lot of time in Australia and speaks a lot about her awakening process on the lands of Australia. So I purchased that book, and it was the only purchase I'd made from the Theosophical Book Society, that shop, and I read it on my tram ride home, and I cried publicly the whole way home.
Wow.
And then I knew, okay, there's something bigger and deeper going on in my life, and my ability to remember just began accelerating more and more from that point. But that was a very big turning point for me.
How old were you then?
Would have been around 25 years
Oh
of
my
age.
goodness. 25 is when I started.
Oh, wow.
Literally, it was my 25th birthday, and I had a reading. And that reading, basically, the clairvoyant said, if you keep going the way you are, your marriage will fail, you'll remarry quickly, that marriage will fail, you'll have very few happy moments in your life, you'll die at 53, and be very ill in your 30s and 40s. And he said, but you have an alternate destiny. And if you choose that destiny, your marriage will survive. You'll overcome the illnesses in your 30s and 40s. You'll have many happy moments, and you'll live into your 90s and be of great benefit to the world. And I said, oh, okay, how do I do that? And he just went like this: I'm the messenger. You have to figure that out. And so that's been 40 years this year.
Yeah. Julie, this is so parallel to my experience, because the very next day, because I mean, it was such a moving experience for me. Like, I found it very difficult to sleep that night. I couldn't go to work the next day. I actually called in sick, and I was watching daytime TV, and this is when Oprah Winfrey was still on TV, and she had a guest speaker that day on past life regression.
Wow.
Of all days. Yeah. And this is the day I'm at home watching Oprah. And as soon as the guest speaker began, it was if that speaker was speaking directly through the TV, directly to me on the couch. And as I'm watching the show, I Googled past life regression, Collins Street, Melbourne City, like just, or Melbourne City. And what came up was a lady that worked opposite my work building as one of the top hits. Wow. I'm like, I contact her, I go and have a session, and a little bit similar to yours is that I walked into her apartment. She was an Asian lady, and there was a massage table there, and she just kind of indicated to it, and so I laid down. I'd never been to a healing session before. And I went to this, and she pretty much just shook her head at me and was looking at me like this. And I'm like, oh, like what? What's wrong with me? And she said, do you know why you're here? I said, nah, no idea. I'm hoping you can help me with that. And she said, you know all this. I'm like, what do you mean? And this is the first time I'd ever heard the word priestess, other than the book. She spoke the word priestess to me. And she's like, you just know, all this. And I'm like, well, what, again, a similar, like, what do I do? Like, how do you process that level of remembrance? And I must say, it's been a journey ever since, a continual unpacking of our abilities, not just you and I, but everyone, our abilities to remember. Our magnificence of what's gone before us and what will continue to go.
That's it.
Continue to be.
Absolutely. So I have a memory of being a priestess and wearing white, and like half my wardrobe is white, and it's not because I'm in a cult or I have a special religious thing that says I need to wear white. It's just that white is the thing that I am attracted to. And I have a memory of being a priestess wearing white and having really long dark hair, wavy hair. And like, that's nothing like what I am here, but that's the memory. And it's like a snapshot of that memory. And so wow.
I've got a lot of white in my wardrobe too.
Have you really?
And I mean, how I kind of studied the Essenes for a while. That was a bit of my starting point of I got very interested more in the yogic life of who we know as Jesus Christ. And I kind of I started investigating there as well. And then the Atlantean stuff very much took off for me. And I studied under an incredible mentor in Melbourne of the liquid crystal oracle deck, which became a big part of my life. And I mean, it got really hardcore for me because it just wouldn't let up. Like there were certain missions and messages and volumes of information coming back into my remembrance. And it's when that voice just doesn't leave you. It doesn't let up. And so much so that I had to physically build a temple space again,
told me about
which is
that.
what I've done here on the Sunshine Coast in Australia. And so like that's how radical this remembrance has been in my life. And it is manifested in very big ways. And as soon as I kind of embarked on that part of the adventure, it was like, okay, we finished the temple. Now there's all this to go. It's like, you got to invite now all the people to come back and sit in the temple. I'm like, okay. Like, you're not satisfied that I built the structure?
I built it.
It continues on and on. And it's the most magical, tough, fun ride of my life. And there's no way you could have told me in my early 20s that I'd be doing this, Julie. And I know you've had that experience as well. So that's where when I say it just feels like it comes to me, it like calls me. It's beyond my conscious logical mind of the agenda that Myra had for her life.
Do you say things like, you can't make this stuff up? Like
all the time.
You can't.
All the time.
it's too weird. Like, our lives are too weird to even conceive to make it up, the things that happen.
Yeah, and I think the more illogical things are, the more that the thought processes don't fit the current reality, then that's kind of one of the indicators for me that it is definitely from the quantum. It's from spirit. It's
Mm,
from the other side of the veil,
yeah.
because that's kind of one of the characteristics. And so if it is a
Yeah.
little bit more random, if it's a little bit more scary, if it's a little bit more unfamiliar, then I'm like, oh, that's actually the true path for me.
Mm,
And
yeah.
many, many
I
times I
remember
think,
when I
you
was,
cannot make this up. But we do
yeah,
on some level, Julie. You know, the greater us
I've
actually does have a say in all this.
just been watching, I don't know why, things come across my path, but yesterday I was watching a couple of episodes on near-death experiences and how they were kind of above their bodies, looking down on everything that was happening. And as I was listening to the stories, I'm thinking, I remember when I was 8 and my mum was reading stories to my sister and I. I don't know if my older brother was there, and I had a baby brother. And to them, I looked like I was curled up on the floor sleeping. But I was looking at all of that from the ceiling, and I was looking down. And when I woke up, my sister said, "You missed out on the story." I said, "No, I didn't." I said, "I know what you would I know the whole story." And I recounted everything that happened. My mum took me to the doctor the next day,
Oh, wow.
because she was a nurse and she knew that I shouldn't have been able to say what happened, that you couldn't know from just listening if I was just had my eyes closed. And when I said that I was up on the ceiling and I could see everything, I obviously had an out of body experience.
Mm,
But when I listened to the people talking about their near death experiences, it was similar to what I experienced.
mm,
And I remember at that time, now this is like nearly 50 years ago. If you have a dream, you don't remember a dream. If you have an experience, you remember an experience, right? I was having dreams at that time that I still remember.
mm,
So they were experiences.
mm,
And I was traveling through earth, through walls and through maybe dimensions as an 8-year-old, 7-year
mm.
old, 8-year old, 7 probably at that time. And I'm thinking now of a dream that I had just this week, and I really thought of you when I
Tell
woke
me.
up,
Mm,
because we have had a chat about Lemuria and we'll talk about that again in a sec. But I was in this place, someone was playing music like I've not ever heard
mm,
before. But I could see the music
mm,
in front of me
mm,
as color, and it was about this big, and it was like pink and orange and yellow, and it was moving, and I was saying, "Oh my god." And it was like, this is the first time I've experienced this, but I could feel the music moving through me as well. So it was a very all I could think of was, I just experienced music 5D.
yes.
And all I wanted to do was tell you about it. And I said, okay, we'll save that for the podcast. But there was a particular instrument that was
Mm,
being played, and I don't remember that. I should have taken notes, but all I remember is seeing the sound as light, colored
Mhm.
light.
Mhm.
But it was kind of, the binaural beat, if you put earphones on, it comes in this ear and out that ear, and it's like it's doing that. It was not just through my ears, it was through my body, but way more magnified than I've ever experienced. So that was what I woke up to the other day.
Oh, holy moly.
I know, and I thought of
How
you. So
exquisite.
you were the
Yeah,
first
I
person I
thank you
thought
for
of.
sharing that with me, and I do understand everything you've shared, and I
Yeah,
relate, and yeah, that's part of my world too, of how
yeah.
I remember, and so much to say in that. And I mean, I did a little post today about our ability to see color
I
again.
just read it, and
Yeah.
and I
But this
thought,
is what I mean. We don't see color just through our eyes. To
mm,
see color is to truly be with the color and
mm,
experience the color, which is what you've described there.
it was
I had an
wild.
experience after swimming with the humpback whales from Harvey Bay. It was a 3-day experience for me of being in the water 7-8 hours with them each day. After the completion of day one, could fully see color, like as you described, in my
Mhm.
waking state.
Yeah,
It's incredible, and all of these abilities are available to us. And what you described in that dream state, that's you consciously being able to navigate your astral plane. So
mm,
these things we often stumble into
yeah,
in an unconscious or subconscious way. The ascended opportunities we have is to able to experience all of those gifts in a conscious awaking state.
yeah,
These are
yeah,
our normal capabilities. They're just coming a lot more available to us now in a waking state. Yeah. And it's like,
yeah.
even you've got the
Well,
chance to remember the dream, remember the experience, and articulate it so beautifully now, awake and aware, which only
thank you.
solidifies it more, the experience
That's
now.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so listening to these near-death experiences, I think it was the movie with Robin Williams, What Dreams May Come. And in that movie, he was saying that when you're on the other side through the veil, you just think it and it is, and you
Mm,
think it and you're there, and you think it and it happens. Well, that's what these NDEs were saying, that you just have to think it. And then they're coming back and saying, if you people just knew, you just have to think it into being, and that's it. And that's what we're doing. Like
mm,
that's how I live my
mm.
life. But, you know,
Yeah.
seeing the color of the
I
music
have a oh, you've just
was
frozen for a
wild.
second.
But now that I've got
Mhm.
yes, yes. So now that I've got that link to that experience, then I can expand on that and experience it in my full waking life.
Mm. And I think I'm correct in saying that the fastest thing is the speed of thought.
Yeah,
I believe it is faster than the speed of light.
yeah.
And so that's speaking to our ability of telepathy. It
Mhm.
is it is it's connected to the unified field, so it is instantaneous.
It
And
is.
I just wanted to share I have a 6-year-old son, and he is still in that real superhero physical expression stage, and wild imagination. And even when he runs past me, he goes, I'm running through you, mum. I'm running through the walls of the house, and he'll
Mm.
brush up past me. And I'm like, yeah, in his imagination, that's still all available for him.
Yeah,
He
yeah, yeah,
really truly believes that's achievable, that he's
yeah.
capable of that he
I
can.
read a book,
Mm.
and when someone loans you a book, and you know you've got to give it back, but you don't want to give it back.
Or you haven't read it yet?
Oh,
Yes.
no, I read it. I
You
read it
read it.
several times, but I did not want to give this book back. But I gave it back, but I never ever got my own copy. And it was about a student and a shaman. And basically, the shaman was teaching the student to actually walk through earth, walk into the cliff face, or not walk, run into the cliff face and kind of experience that, and then come out the top and be the eagle and fly and see through the eyes of the eagle. And it gives me goosebumps as I talk about it. But it's, did you read the book Illusions by Richard Bach?
Of course I did.
Like, that saved my life, that book. It seriously saved my life. Well, that's kind of what the master, I can't remember, is Shimoda. I think it was Shimoda that's what he was doing as well.
Yeah, I read it a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
it's
read it
in my book
probably
collection.
20 or 30 times. And yes, so we can do extraordinary things. And I remember I was with a friend and he'd hurt his arm, and I held one hand on his elbow and one hand on his wrist, and it was like everything that was in between melted, and I kind of stretched it, and then I let it go because I knew that the body had the memory of where it was needing to be. So I stretched it and then let it go. And when he opened his eyes, he said, "My arm is, what did you do?" And I said, "I don't know. I just did what I intuited." But it was pretty wild to shift the structure of his body, because it felt like I stretched it like from there to there, literally. So he would have had that same experience. And I don't know, we can just do amazing things if we don't limit what we do with our mind.
Yeah, and that's the only cap on the whole system. Like the
Yeah.
whole awakening process, the healing process, the evolutionary process, the pathway of ascension, the only cap is the constructs of our minds, our beliefs,
Yeah.
our belief system, whether it's possible or not.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I keep, now I just have a daily mantra. It's how I view the world, but everything is entirely malleable. I
Yes,
just
that's the
keep
word.
kind of suggesting that to myself. Everything is so reprogrammable, rescriptable, and everything is malleable.
Yep.
The cells of your body, you can rescript them. Your DNA field, you can rewrite programs. And so I just
Yeah.
keep reminding myself
Yep.
that this is all just very, very malleable, which is fantastic if you're an artist or a creative or have creative spark to you.
Yes.
And this is, humanity needs to get a lot more creative, a lot more. We need to break more rules. We need to do more
Yeah.
things out of the box, because it's the creative inventor, visionary that's got the weird, wacky courage to do something different.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's what opens the floodgates.
That's
Yeah.
it.
And when you
Exactly.
see one leader do it, or one coach, or one author, or one community member do it, you're like, oh, he or she is so brave. And they are, because they're stepping into uncharted territory.
That's it.
But
Yeah.
it's so necessary to
Yeah.
just,
And
having more and more discussions and conversations like this.
there's a freedom, though, in stepping out of the box, because there's no rules outside of the box. So you can do whatever you want, really. Wherever your creative mind takes you, you can do, or you can experiment with. Or look, are there failures? Of course there are, because that's how we know what not to do. but at least we're outside of the box looking at what's possible, and really nothing's not possible.
Mhm.
Because if you can think it, you can conceive it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but
And
we
I
have
think,
to believe that as well.
yeah, you just can't kind of throw it away as a line. You actually, like, your cellular structure actually needs to believe it,
Yeah.
really, that is a possibility, that could actually fall into your lap, that very
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
So last week I posted that what I can't even remember what I said. But it was, I don't know how last week was for you, but it was a tough week. Like, I look at the comments and people are saying how when those 6
Mm,
planets lined up,
mm,
that everyone was struggling a little bit. And I remember flicking on my phone, and that's what I do sometimes when I'm thinking, but I'm flicking. And this thing came up where the guy said, before you go to sleep, say this. And it was, now I'm probably not saying the words that he said, but these are the words that I say. Thank you for the solution to my problem, XYZ. Thank you for the solution. And seriously, every morning I wake up and the solution is there.
mm.
I mean, tangibly there in my inbox, or somebody rings me, or and now since I started doing that, I'm thinking something, but then it pings into my messages or my WhatsApp or my inbox, but I've already telepathically received it.
Mm.
And that's happening like hour after hour every day.
That's fantastic.
And it may
Yeah.
be since I saw the light, the music as light. I don't know whether that, opened
Mm.
another door. But yeah. So
That's so
what's
good. And it's, I have many of these little nuances that are so different. And I now I know that everyone doesn't, behave this way. But, I do a lot of work in the astral plane, because if you
yeah,
think about it, we actually spend a lot of time sleeping
yeah,
as a species.
yeah.
And 8, 9, 10 hours every
Mm,
single day of our life we're spending in the sleeping state. And so I figured out, or at least investigated with myself, is well, how can I put that time to best use so
yeah.
it gives me an advantage of when I wake again. And
Mm,
this is, something I'm really passionate about, is getting a real energetic management over your astral plane,
mm.
over your dreamscape, because it is an extension of who you are.
It is.
Just
Yes.
as you have your etheric body, just as you have your Merkaba and your light, your diamond
Mm,
light body, it's just another extension of who we are. Um, and just as you would manage and arrange a bedroom here and an office and your kitchen, and there's only certain people that you would wish to attract through your front door to welcome
yeah.
into your own home.
Yes.
This is something I do all the time on the astral plane, is that I've set parameters around that,
Mm,
and conditions as to what gets let in and what is not
yes.
welcome.
Yes.
Then
And
I'm
and
like,
I want you to talk more on that, because
mm,
I know that there are certain people in the world, in the spiritual community, who say that you don't have to protect your energy, you don't have to set those energetic boundaries, that having a positive mindset and positive attitude is enough. I don't believe that. I think that we do have to set, I also believe that we do need to regularly clear our energy, regularly check in
100%.
to see what funky shit's going on. And excuse the language, guys, I'm really toning my language down here, that we do have to look after our energetic hygiene as much as our physical hygiene. Like we shower, well, I hope we shower every day, brush our teeth, like brush our hair. We take care of our personal hygiene. We need to be doing that with our energy hygiene as well. And my daughter Tash is my business partner. I hear it in her voice when she's got something funky going on in her energy. And so we open enough with each other to say, can you just check whether you have an entity or a dense energy or tethered ancestor or energetic track? Like we've got a whole list of things that we check. And then I go, oh, darn it, I do. And so we do the clearing and then we go, oh, now I feel light. Now I'm back to myself. And how you know is you think things that are not quite in alignment with your normal thinking. You behave in ways that are not your normal behavior. That's how you can tell that something's off. And you can't link it to something in the physical world. It's in the energetic world. It's in the energetic realm. And there's layers and layers in the energetic realm. And I feel that it's a responsibility of each individual to actually look after that as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I have so much to say on this. Yeah, absolutely. It is the individual's responsibility to
Mm,
clean up the mess that they have created in the astral plane.
mm,
And it is under their custodianship, it is under their stewardship.
yeah.
And again, this comes down to self-responsibility
Yes.
on all levels,
Yes.
on all fields.
Yes.
So not just the physical body, and this is a good place to start because it's so tangible and physical, like we
Yeah.
can see it.
Yes.
But don't kid yourself that those finer vibrations of your energetic body are not your responsibility. They are, even though you may not see them all the time. Yeah, and there are absolutely, just as you would get a critter walking through or a pest in your own house, you can have critters and pests in the astral plane.
Yes.
Not only that, not only entities like that, but downloadable thought forms as well that are not really that agreeable to you or to
Yeah.
your true self. So it doesn't have to be a scary monster
Yes.
or like they are very they do exist. It also can be like just a downloadable program as well. But yeah, the better you can get at managing your energetic system, your hygiene in the waking state as well as the sleeping state, you're really going to clean up your act and be such a cleaner, finer vessel then that can be put to use for more of your soul's mission.
And the cleaner you can keep your energetic hygiene, the clearer you can hear from the subtle realms.
Correct.
The finer the veil is, and the we talk about explorers sailing the high seas and discovering new countries. Where we're exploring today is the subtle realms and other dimensions, and there is such a thing as dimensional travel. There is such a thing as, I don't know if you've read the Celestine Prophecy series, but all of those insights, I've experienced all of those insights. And when James Redfield was asked, why haven't you written another book? Do you know what his answer was? Because I haven't experienced it yet.
Oh,
That was before the
bless.
12th inset. Yeah. And so
So
there
in
was a big
integrity.
chunk of years like, I don't know, was it 12, 15 years, 20 years between the 11th insight and the 12th insight.
Mm.
And I thought, kudos to you for staying true to the journey.
Mm.
And yeah, I recommend those books to a lot of people
Mm.
who are either starting their journey or have forgotten the insights, because we
Mm.
can forget, and they're
I just wanted
powerful.
to circle back around. I remember one of your questions now that you actually asked me was like, should we protect ourselves
Yes,
as
yes.
well? And so yes, I do believe you should, because we're building the strength of this internal energetic capacity. Yeah.
Mm,
So until that's really strong, really vibrant, filled with light,
mhm.
which is a rarity on this planet, I would be suggesting and the way we protect ourselves is by continuing to clean the vessel, is by that management. So yeah, I do believe in some sort of protection responsibility in that
Yes,
space.
yes,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's, look, even if people don't believe in other realms or other dimensions, the fact is that we're not just physical.
Mm.
I work with 7 bodies: physical, emotional. We have an emotional body that you can't see. We have a mental body that you can't see. We have a spiritual body that you can't see. We have an auric body that sometimes you can see. Like, that's pretty wild to see the auric body. And we have an energetic body, and that's the one that I work in for the healing. And we have the etheric body. So we know that those bodies exist. Are there other subtle bodies and realms? I suspect yes. But just because you can't see something doesn't mean it's not there, doesn't mean it's not real. And it's about actually thinking about that and thinking, well, what is it that I need to be more responsible for? And I think that the most priority responsibility is to protect your energy, cleanse your energy, and be aware that those two things are really important on a
And I love what
day-to-day
you
level.
said is just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And that was that encapsulates my journey,
Mm,
is I always put more preference into the unseen. I always orientated my thoughts. I had more predominant interest in the unseen. And that's
mm,
really, that was such a guiding light over my whole journey, is I always
yeah,
never negated the unseen, and I
yeah,
actually gave it quite a lot of authority over my
mm,
life.
yeah,
And I gave that a platform to speak daily,
yeah.
that from the unseen.
So
Yep.
what platform did you create for it? Like, how did you navigate that part of your journey?
Mm.
Do you have an altar? Do you meditate? Like, what's your day-to-day life like,
Mm.
giving that authority or giving that attention?
Yeah, at the start, before getting married and having children, it was a lot easier, I must
Mm,
say. But I just simply had the time to put so much into that. But yeah, absolutely. An altar, the books that I would read, the people that I began hanging out with, spending time in nature.
mhm,
And what became such a strong point for me that really helped me on my journey is I started to orientate the goalposts differently in my life.
So
And the
talk to me about.
first goalpost that I really wanted to be devoted to was strengthening the
Mm,
daily relationship I had to my higher self. That's all I wanted. And I was like, okay, do that in your waking state. Do that as you brush your teeth. Do that in your
mhm,
work day. do that as you sleep.
Mm.
And I began to really get quite command-like with my cellular structure. And it's like I started to get the physical structure under my command, that the cells of my body, we are now devoted to this one cause of being daily in constant communication with my higher self.
Yeah.
And always kind of closing the gap on the humanity and the divinity. I just wanted to marry those two aspects of myself.
Yes.
Moment to moment to moment to moment.
Well, in the great tradition, that's what they call moment to moment contemplation of the divine, right?
Mm.
And so when you bring that into your, I think they call it sadhana, like your daily discipline, and moment to moment, like your body is just flooded with, is ecstasy the right word, or
Mm.
euphoria? But it's not from a drug. It's internally generated
Yeah,
because
it's your
you're,
true nature.
that's right.
It's
And
you.
like I would say to people, even as a teenager, but why do you need to take drugs to feel like that? Don't you just feel like that? And they go, no, Julie, you're just too weird. And I thought everyone could experience this.
Mm.
And so, but there's a discipline around it, and not everyone has that discipline. Have you observed that?
Yeah. Yes, I have absolutely observed that. And I think people overcomplicate the process as
I
well,
agree.
looking for external
Mhm,
shiny objects.
mhm,
And I remember a great teacher of mine who is a yogic master in India, and he was saying, because of our ego, we get quite attached to spiritual experiences.
mhm,
You know, the kundalini
mhm,
energy when it's moving through the body,
mm.
the retreat, the I whatever. We're getting attached to the spiritual experiences,
Correct.
thinking that that's the goal.
It's not.
It's not the goal. He said there's another step. The
Yeah,
step after spiritual experience is spiritual wisdom,
yeah,
knowing that you don't need the external stimulant,
correct,
knowing that you don't need the event, knowing that you
correct,
don't need the retreat.
correct,
Which
correct.
isn't great for sales and marketing, but it's that we are that thing that we
Yeah,
are seeking.
yeah,
So I do believe people overcomplicate it with a lot of tools, with a lot of modalities, with a lot, and it's exciting to go on that journey. I've been in that journey, and I'm still in that journey. At the end of the day, what you are seeking is your very nature.
mm,
So if you can't sit still by yourself and access it in that moment,
yeah,
then you're missing the point.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. But
yeah.
so I think there is a degree of simplicity, but I'm not saying it's easy.
No,
And
no, I would never say it's easy,
it's
but
not, yeah, and it's not fancy, and it's not the shiny object, probably what you want to hear.
yeah, yeah,
um that's how I view it more and more and more.
mm,
um and I normalize the process too. I get this kind of response a lot about my work or my teachings, and people, it's refreshing for people when it's explained in a way that is real and relatable and normal. This is actually our normal nature. So if you can normalize the ascension process, If you can
Yeah.
normalize your outer body experiences, if you can actually normalize the experience you had when you experienced music and
Yeah.
light like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
we're holding these things up on pedestals thinking that we can't get back there, or it was a fluke,
Mm.
or that's just once in a lifetime experience for you. Whereas I have the approach, no, that's your normal nature, Julie. I'm like, do that again tomorrow morning.
Yeah. I'll put it in there. I'll
I'm
put in
on it.
my order.
But even having that belief,
Yeah.
even if it doesn't happen tomorrow, but just going, oh, that is actually normal for the human
Yeah.
to experience that. That's
Yeah.
what creates the new earth frequencies. That's what creates that
Yes.
opening of permission.
It's like the 100 monkey thing. So the more we normalize these extraordinary seeming experiences, the more it will come down into the denser matrix, right?
Yep.
And so I also am reminded of the first person to break the 4-minute mile. Yeah, like they tried forever, it seemed. But then in the next 6 months, like how many people broke the 4-minute mile? Was it 4 or 6 people? Because that first person like put it in the field that it was possible.
Sorry, I missed that last bit. It just froze. But yeah, when
That
one
last bit,
breaks through it,
yeah,
yes,
so
which
when one breaks
ties back
through, then
around.
others follow.
Correct, which ties back around to the only thing that is holding this process back is it's here.
Mm. Yeah,
Because as soon as that time was broken, it's the permission slip for others to go, oh, I believe that too. Perhaps that could be a potentiality for me too.
correct.
And I
Yeah.
see that across that. We must hold that true over and over again for ourselves, for our communities, because now that I've built the temple
Mm.
and my domain name that's related to that business. Now, so like it took maybe 10 years after, oh, I had that vision too. Oh, I wanted to build a temple too. Oh, it's like the priestess lineage. That's why it was such a powerful move for us that went out the
Mm.
front to begin using the word priestess again,
Mm.
because that's very activating
Yeah.
when they're trying to remove it from the spoken language. And
Right.
interestingly enough, the Anglican Church, when they introduced females into that role, they called them female priests.
They did.
I'm like, well, hang on a minute. Isn't a female priest called a
A
priestess?
priestess. Yeah.
But they wouldn't use the word.
No, because it has a different A vibration,
Mm-hmm.
B meaning, like tangible meaning, and priestess is not related to religion.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why they wouldn't be able to use priestess in a relationship with religion.
Yes. And so we're lucky there too.
That's it. Yes.
But
Yeah.
I just find that interesting that it when I started speaking the word priestess in 2009, a lot of people would hear the word princess.
Right.
And it wasn't because of a mispronunciation from me. It's just it was so vibrationally unavailable because the Akashic Records actually was preparing itself to hear this word again.
Right.
Because it's the awakening then of that priestess lineage coming back from Atlantis and Lemuria.
Talk to me about Lemuria and your experience of Lemuria.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's distinctly different from Atlantis. So I know I use those civilizations a lot in the same sentence, but they, like, when I tune into the field, very different. This was a deep, feminine, liquidy light existence. Very connected to the Syrian and the Palladian light star mothers.
Can I ask a question? Is it pastel light? Do you see it as pastel colors of light?
There are two, and I've got a great artist friend in Darwin that has drawn some stuff for me, but it's this kind of the sliding scale of
Right.
blue. So there are heavy blues, which are the strengthening and the foundational blue kind of building blocks. And then there's higher and higher, very clear, pastel-y, sparkly blues as well. But it's very watery. You know, this is where our remembrance from the mermen and the mermaids comes from. We had such a deep, deep relationship with the Palladians, who understand hydrogen very well. And so they've gifted us a lot of wisdom around H2O.
Right.
And the consciousness of water. I'm getting really esoteric now.
Yep.
But this is a civilization that was matriarchal in its existence. It was leading with the feminine frequency, where we were deeply connected to the stars, the constellations, nature. You know, as an example, I share this story of, when I run a retreat in Vanuatu, I teach a lot from seashells.
Okay.
Because I must have worked with them previously, but there's so much that the seashell kingdom teaches humanity in all of its signatures. And one story is the women would be on the island and on the land, and the men were the fishermen. And they would ask the priestesses or the high priestesses, where are the fish today?
Yes.
And the women would say, they would know, oh, well, that was in season, or that temperature of the previous night has kind of pushed the school of fish this way. And they would give the directions to the men.
Right.
The men would go in the canoes and catch the fish for the day.
Yep.
But it was always under the guidance
Of the women.
that feminine frequency. Yeah, I've been so deeply connected to nature. But so much water work. Like, life was in the water. Life was on the canoes, on the water.
Yes.
And it's very connected to Syrians as well. Lemuria, with the I kind of see the Palladians as our spiritual parents, your mum and dad.
Okay.
And then I see the Syrians as our spiritual grandparents. And if you can imagine, you've got a different relationship with your grandma. It's kind of like you're allowed a few treats from the pantry. You know, she's less strict on you. This is kind of how I feel our connection of our Earth's humanity with Sirius. Palladians, I find, are a lot more instructional. They're like, no, you clean up your act there before you come and contact us. Or, they've got a bit more of a parental role.
Yep.
But just like a beautiful, beautiful temples, and the color there, Julie. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
Is the color, the crystals, pyramids underwater easily.
Have you heard of Bear Cloud?
Oh no, I'm not familiar.
Oh, okay. So when we ran our retreat in Sedona, there's a village there called the Talakapaki village, and it's all like shops, and there's this art gallery by Bear Cloud, and he's an artist, and from memory he's half Native American and half Celtic, and he started having visions, and so he was painting the visions, and he went on this whole journey, and he's got the most extraordinary artwork. But one of the pieces is this painting of all these pyramids, big pyramids and little pyramids and medium-sized pyramids, but all connected together so that it's, he said, it is a place in the universe. Reading his book. And have you heard of the artist Akiana, the child artist? Oh my gosh.
You've got to
Akiana
introduce me to these. Yeah.
started drawing when I think she was 4. And she then went on and she painted Jesus. Like, she would go to the other side and then come back and paint what she saw, kind of thing. But she has one painting of the pyramids almost identical to Bear Cloud, except hers has got water all around it. His doesn't have the water, but hers does. And I just look at these two paintings and I go, you guys have been to the same place, because they look so similar. And Arkia, I don't know if it's Akiana or Beck, one of them has a doorway in on another painting, and apparently not everyone can go in. Like, there's a field, a force field, and not everyone is allowed in. But I feel like I have traveled in
Oh, wow.
there. And like, you know what? I haven't ever told anybody that. So now anyone who listens
Now
will,
it's out there.
it's out
Yeah.
there. But Bear Cloud believes that he has decoded the universal language, the language of the universe. And if you can get a hold of his book, I think it's called 7 Fires. I'll put the link in. It was out of publication for a while, but it is the most extraordinary story, and I know you will love it. And he had a vision of Monument Valley. But not only did he have a vision of Monument Valley, he had a vision of a stone in Monument Valley, and he followed the vision, and he went and he found the stone. He found the actual stone. And so when we were there, we had another week. We drove to Monument Valley and got to see all of the iconic rocks. And I said to Frank, we shouldn't be here. This is not for white people to be on this land. It is not for us. I want to leave as soon as we can. So we got up early. There wasn't a sunrise. There was clouds. And we left. Thank goodness we left, because we hit a snowstorm on the way out with black ice. Like, it was probably one of the most frightening experiences, because we're in another country. We didn't have chains on the car, and we drove through 2 snowstorms on our way back to Sedona. But it was like this presence, this force was saying, you must leave, you
Get
must
out.
leave, get out. If we hadn't, I don't know how long we would have been stuck there. But anyway, we got through, and I just could feel like it wasn't our place to be. It wasn't our land. I felt like, Julie, this is not for white people to be here. This is very sacred, very special land. And yes, it's magnificent, but not to be there. And it wasn't because of spirits and I was being, pushed out. It was me resonating with the sacredness of their culture, and that it wasn't for me to be there. And it was more of an honoring their culture and their history and what they've look, what they've lost, but what they've retained as well, as in within the subtle realms of
Mm.
their culture. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yeah, and you
And
just highlighted such a beautiful point too, because it's so good to illustrate that and to share stories like that, because I think people go in, yeah, wanting a certain experience, or, it's like, oh,
mm,
that's the prize, or that's the tourist destination, or
mm,
that's the portal I've got to get to next, or so your ego could have that as the agenda or the
mm,
desire, but just
mm,
tuning into the body, and that body has given you, no, hang on a minute.
yeah,
I know this was on your travel agenda, but I'm sorry. This is, either it's a timing issue, or it's a lineage issue, or it's just not part of your path.
yeah, yeah,
And respecting that is so, so important. And
mm,
again, it's having the courage to listen to that little indicator when you
yes,
get it.
yes,
Um,
yes. I was really, and we went through the painted desert on the way there, and I said, Frank, we really shouldn't be here.
mm,
It's not for us to be here. And he couldn't understand what I was feeling. He said, well, we've made the decision. We're going. So we're
correct.
going.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And I
Mm,
just could feel like we shouldn't have been there.
mm,
It was, but then I get to have the experience of feeling the feeling and listening to it. And
mm,
because it's subtle, it's a subtle
mm.
experience, right? And
I've got
so,
an approaching trip coming up, and it's me returning to the lands of Weeper where I grew up, and I haven't been
yeah,
back in 36 years.
yeah,
Um, and it is Indigenous land where Indigenous communities still very much live. And I'm going with
mm,
this new awareness though. And it's
yeah,
interesting because recently a scientific peer review article got released about what they're finding underwater now off the coast of Queensland, up
mm,
Cape York Peninsula way, and they're finding a large landmass of all these submerged continents
wow,
under the water, and they're saying, oh, it's Atlantis.
right,
And I'm like, well, of course it was, because I was up there as a child with my
yeah,
mum watching the sunset out over that sea
mm,
every
mm,
afternoon. And I'm like, yeah, I believe that. That would make sense with
mm,
someone with my remembrance. Imagine the sunsets I was watching as a child, not
yeah,
knowing that I was actually looking out potentially over Atlantean lands the whole
and being
time.
encoded,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
But I have the desire to go there, but this is ties in with your story, but I'm
yeah,
very open to, if I come across something where I might be going into some no-go zones.
mhm,
I don't know, but I might get that feeling and I'm like, okay,
yeah,
I need to retreat. I'm out of my depth. I'm not welcome here.
yeah,
Yeah. So I'm just
yeah,
keeping that in mind for myself, to have that in check as well.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah, and,
mm,
some places are not for us,
mm, mm,
and then
mm.
there's some places that normally you wouldn't get to experience as a white person, but I've experienced,
Exactly, and you get this
like,
secret access
can
into
can
them. Yeah.
I share, like, seriously, and I'm thinking that I wanna run a retreat at Carnarvon Gorge. Have you been to Carnarvon
As a
Gorge?
child, I have, yeah.
Okay, so we went to Carnarvon Gorge, and it's in Central Queensland
Mm,
in Australia. Um, we went there to end a 3-year mentoring with one of our one-on-one clients.
mm,
She came with us, and we had this adventure at Carnarvon. It was kind of a retreat, but not, if that makes sense. But we hiked together, the three of us, Frank and myself and my friend, and we went in to, like, one of the magical, um chasms, I suppose,
Mm.
at Carnarvon, which is the first one before you go into the valleys. And we just kept walking past where the touristy thing stops. We just kept going and going, and we went deeper and deeper until the walls were like this wide, and we're going, okay, well, we might have to stop now. And so then we decided that we would meditate. So everywhere we went, we meditated for at least 15 minutes. And as I was meditating, I could hear a corroboree. And so I kept opening my eyes and looking around, but I'm hearing the corroboree like it was almost like drawing me in, like I was on this.
Mm.
The veil was very thin, that's all I can say. And so then the next day we did another hike in, and I can't remember where we went that next day, but there's one place that's called the amphitheater. And so it's still a ways in off the track. So every day, we were there for 6 days. Every day we hiked in and we got to the place, there were no other people. Like,
Mm.
I'm talking hundreds of people, but the moment we were there, we got to meditate for 15 minutes with no other people there. And every day, the corroboree got louder and louder. And
Oh,
then we went
wow.
to this place. Oh my God, we had to climb up like 500 steps, and we get up there. All these people are coming out, and I'm going, okay. And when we get in there, we're the only ones there. And we
Yes.
went right to the end, and we're meditating, but I translocated to the corroboree, and I was in the center, and they were going around me. Like, I could feel my cells were going like this, and it was as loud as if you put the volume up on your stereo. And I'm thinking, am I really having this experience? And it was so profound. I can't even tell you.
Mm.
And then we came out of our meditation, and then other people started coming in. It's almost like there was a force field
Mm.
around these experiences. And in the amphitheater, we were in there by ourselves. But oh my goodness, I I was like liquid, like I wasn't solid. But my guardian angel appeared on the cliff face, as big as the cliff face. And
Yes.
then I was given messages, and I was crying by the end. It was absolutely incredible.
Ah.
And so, like, I have this memory of Carnarvon Gorge, and I'm like, but if I go back, will I destroy the memories that I have? Like, do I want to break that
Mm.
experience? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it really does. And I'm kind of faced with a similar dilemma is because I remember the lands of my childhood being very
Yeah,
fantastical
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. So,
colorful. And I'm like, oh, just managing my expectations of being
yeah,
so, I guess, detached from the outcome
yeah,
of
yeah. But
returning.
it's extraordinary,
Mm.
the feeling, the frequency. And I remember, like, we went in a tent in June. It was 0 at night, and we were in a tent and hiking like 20,000 steps in a day. And at 3 a.m. I'd roll over because I was a bit cold, and I'd go, I cannot get up and do this again. I cannot do it. That's at 3 a.m. 7 a.m. I wake up. All the pain has gone out of my body, and I face up and I walk another 25,000 steps.
Mm.
And there's one more story I need to tell. I read this book, and I can't remember the name of it. And it was about teaching. It might have been Mutant Message Down Under. But anyway, they had a part in there where they taught how the Indigenous heal.
Mm.
And it was like they would go like this or like this to remind the cells what they used to be like. And then they'd go like this, and then they'd hold their hands on either end.
Mm.
Now, I don't use that every time I do healing in my business, but I do when I remember. But I tore the meniscus in my left knee maybe 20 years ago, but I never had surgery. But doing all that walking and up and down stairs, etc., my knee would swell up. And when we did the 500 steps up, have the corroboree experience full on, I then had to walk back down the 500 steps. And then I got to the bottom. I couldn't straighten my leg. It was
Oh.
so swollen. And Frank and Karen were up front. And so I just sent it into myself and I said, okay, guys, you are going to help me with this. Please, can you heal my leg? Because I have 4 kilometers to walk to get out of here. I have no walking stick. Oh, I might have had a walking stick. I couldn't straighten my leg. It was bad.
Mm.
Do you know what? Something incredible happened. I just was in this zone, in this space. Within 5 to 10 minutes, I was upright, walking normally, and all the fluid was out of my knee. And I managed that last 4 kilometers brilliantly. You know, you just gotta ask, right? And so that's how I navigated 15K days.
I love that story. I love that,
Yeah.
and I get so many messages in it when you share it,
Mm.
and the trance-like nature that is the Indigenous of Australia with their clapping sticks and their didgeridoo.
Mm.
I mean, I have very, very deep experiences on the didgeridoo because it's just like my body responds to it
Mine
automatically.
too.
Yeah, I've got to
Like,
be really careful. Like, I can't go to like a public sound gathering, or if I do, I have to be very mindful, aware, because I have such a history with that sound. Must be in my Akashic records or something. But I love your story because the corroboree for across those days were building in the frequency, and they were like amping up the volume. Day
yes,
1, day 2, day 3 for you.
100%,
So they're
100%.
raising the vibration in
Yes,
that trance-like state and
yeah,
holding it so pristine for you
yes,
that on that final day when you had that transference, it
mm,
just you pop into their reality. It's
totally.
just so easy and smooth, the
Yep,
transition
mm,
of that recognizing that vibrational resonance.
yes, yeah,
Oh, what a gift.
I know.
What an
It's
absolute gift.
probably one of my most precious experiences. Yeah,
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about the Indigenous cultures around the world is like they frequently live there.
they do. They
And
do.
live in that vibrational
Yeah.
remembrance.
Mm.
Yeah. Yep.
How
So
blessed are
beautiful.
we, though? We've done the work. We've done the work over the decades
Mm.
to be able to experience these things. Um, and I think it's because I do something every single day for holding that frequency. Do you do something every single day?
Mm,
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably not an exciting answer because I've just drilled it into myself. Not drill, but I've just solidified that
Mm.
day in, day out over, it's 2 decades now for me. And I know you're a lot longer in the game than I am, but it's just continually holding myself to that standard of frequency. That's really kind of
Yeah.
where my mind is at now.
And you know what? It's not holding yourself to a standard that somebody else has imposed.
Mm.
it's not like a teacher or someone has said, well, you must adhere to this standard. It's actually an internally generated standard that we're honoring. It's not a chore or a have to, or I'm a bad person if I don't do this. It's an internal frequency that is, I don't know about for you, but it drives me.
Mm. Yeah, I feel that too. And I have an appreciation more of the game
Mm,
rather than fighting it.
mm,
I have a deep reverence to my incarnation.
yeah.
I have a healthy respect for the effort it takes to even be born on this
Mm,
planet.
yeah.
Like
Yeah,
a lot goes into this, you
it
know?
does. It does indeed.
A lot goes into
Indeed.
this story and this play and this time. And so
Yeah.
it's just like acknowledging that it is a true divine gift to be
Mm,
here.
yeah.
And I may not like some days the temple or the vessel I got, but it's just like you just gotta respect and have an appreciation for the vessel you got dealt with.
Yeah.
That's the one.
That's the one.
That's the
That's the
one,
one.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with it?
Exactly. So you might as well make the most of it.
It is.
You might as well make the most of your Akashic records. You
Yeah.
might as well make the most of all of your previous experiences before you came into this work. And that's kind of what it's got to the point for me
Mm,
now
yeah.
is like, oh, well, I'm here. There are many moments when I didn't want to be here.
Same.
Put your
Same.
hand up. I'll put two up. So many times I wanted to wipe myself out of the game.
Absolutely. And I think that that's important for us to share how many times we wanted to give up and not even be here, but we didn't.
Mm,
We felt all the feels, but we picked ourselves up and we kept going.
mm,
We could hear the beat of that drum or that didgeridoo or the sticks. Whatever the beat was, it drew us along on our journey, and we're here today to talk about it.
mm. Yeah. Yep. And I got to the point where realizing, oh, okay, well, if I have taken incarnation, then there must be some good that I could
Mhm.
do
Mm.
with the opportunity to be here in this physical body on this planet
At this time,
at this time.
like how wild that we are on the planet right now,
It is
moving into
exceptional.
the Aquarius age, where there's like where we're still like so much transformation is happening every single day. And then when you talk to like a 100-year-old person, they go, like, you just have to look at history of the last 100 years. What's going to be the history in the next 100 years? Like, I may not be here, but I'm hoping I'm here for the next 30 or 40 years and having an impact. But it's just going to be extraordinary.
And it is a rapid acceleration, even
Yes.
as you say that, I get told, oh, it's just even your reincarnation is going to be completely different.
Yeah.
Because when you come back, you're thinking, oh, well, from birth, like these are the stages of life. I'm going to have to work that out first. And then I
Mm,
have that life lesson in my 20s. And they're saying, no, no, no. It's like, you're going to come back and like, this is why the children are so different now,
mm,
is that they're coming back like full throttle in remembrance. They have a
that's
crystalline
true.
system to them that
Yes.
they're able to access their Akashic records easily.
They remember their past lives.
Yeah, my son has already channeled twice for us at the dinner table, Julie. It's extraordinary. he's just popped into a state of pure channel. He channeled spontaneously at the dinner table. Like, the kid's 5. So it's like you can't even predict or forecast what the next incarnation will be like, even on our own journeys.
No.
So it
No.
is really uncharted grounds. And yeah, I think there is a level of excitement, but it's also a little bit chaotic and a bit haphazard. And
I think that the work that I've been doing is to find the center within the chaos.
Mhm.
And that's the journey, right? To
Mm.
find the center, the balance within the chaos, because the chaos will always be there. And it's about how can I be, capital B-E, in the chaos, in my center, in my connection with the divine order. And that's what the work is for me, personally. Yeah.
And is it chaos or is it divine order as well?
Divine order for me, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah. But, we could talk all day, Myra. So why don't we wrap up? I think this has been my longest episode. So what is some parting words that you would like to share?
Oh, sorry, the video froze, Julie. You'll have to repeat the question.
What are some parting words that you would like to share?
Oh. Parting words are, humanity is on the cusp of a very, very transformational shift. And if you're struggling or not knowing your way, I think it's important to reach out to support, to sisters, to a community, turn up to a circle, reach out to a mentor, hire a book from your library.
Yeah.
And that the journey is not meant to be done alone.
That's right.
It really isn't.
Mm.
And there's a beautiful connection and community and love and so many incredible gifts when we come together.
Yeah.
Because no one actually really knows what's going on.
That's it. That's it. Truth right there.
So you might as well come together and laugh about that with someone else. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So how can people find you, Myra?
Julie, the best place is on my Facebook personal page, which is Myra Medhurst. I'm posting there daily. There's daily content. If you resonate with my work and my message, then there's a private Facebook group that people can link into. But yeah, all my main offerings, if someone wants a Soul's Highest Mission reading, which is their Atlantean reading of when they left off at the fall of Atlantis, that's all available inside the private Facebook group. Yeah.
Well, we will put all the links down below in wherever whatever platform the podcast arrives on, and you'll be able to connect with Myra. It has been an absolute joy to share this time with you. And thank you so much for coming on. And thank you, Miroslav, for the intro.
My pleasure, Julie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.